Thank you, Chairman Lawler. Thank you, Ranking Member Sherman, for holding this hearing. And thank you to our witnesses for testifying today and bringing us your experience and your expertise. I always like to start by saying personally, by serving on this committee, by serving in Congress, I have had the great pleasure of traveling to Israel, to the West Bank, multiple times. And my own faith is enhanced as I go there because it is the birthplace of my own faith. I'm a practicing Catholic. We call it practicing because we never quite get it right. But it is enriching to go there and to think about the history, to recognize the current sets of conflicts, and to look to the future for peace and justice for all who are there. But let's go back a little and talk about what the present is. What we are seeing from Israel, from Israelis in the West Bank: unprecedented settlement expansion, retroactive legalization of outposts previously illegal under Israeli law, and the authorization of new settlements. In August of 2025, this year, the Israeli government granted approval to build more than 3,000 housing units in Iwan, which is near East Jerusalem. Rising settler violence. October 25 saw the highest levels of settler violence in the West Bank on record, totaling 264 attacks. This includes lethal attacks against American citizens. And what we see is it has been reported between 2005 and 2024, 93% of concluded cases came up with no indictments. What we're seeing from the Trump administration: the 20-point plan that anticipates a greater role for the Palestinian Authority. President Trump publicly stating in September of this year that he would not allow Israel to annex West Bank areas. So some questions that I have. If I could just start with you, Dr. Alterman. How are Israeli actions in the West Bank affecting stability and the Palestinian Authority's role as a counterweight to Hamas?
Israeli actions in the West Bank discredit the Palestinian Authority. They make it look weak. It is accused by many of being subservient to a dominating Israeli government. And I think one of the challenges that Mahmoud Abbas has had is the feeling from Palestinians is he's never really been able to deliver anything. He's delivered things to Palestinians. He's been able to deliver things to the Israelis. He has about a 13% approval rating, which is pretty stark.
And I've been there, as I said, and asked leading members of the coalition, the Netanyahu coalition, about settler violence, for example, or settler expansion, and they've denied it, literally using the word, as well as the opposition leader too, using words like, oh, that's just one rogue actor. This denial that it is even going on. What am I to make of that?
I think it goes on. It's hard to understand exactly how much outside of a classified realm. I'm sure that the U.S. security coordinator and the intelligence community has a much better idea of separating truth from fiction there. There's no question in my mind that there are some groups in the West Bank who not only believe that they have a religious justification for being there, but argue that there's a religious justification for terrorizing Arabs. There are a lot of passages in the Bible, in Deuteronomy, in 1 Samuel, that talk about defeating enemies, defeating Amalek, killing, and a minority, a small minority, but a real minority, thinks that those are relevant to the current situation. I certainly remember being in a synagogue after 9/11, and somebody interrupted a rabbi and said, who was talking about what to do, and said, the Bible says you should kill these are Amalek, the Bible says you should kill Amalek. That is a view.
Thank you, sadly, but it's important to understand that. I want to connect, and I think Mr. Sherman was asking about this also, and I appreciate your history of the troubles in Northern Ireland. What can we say? You know, I think there's interesting parallels here to other territorial conflicts, for example, Russia-Ukraine. Can you make some comparisons?
I think President Putin argues that Ukraine has a historic linkage with Russia, that it's historically part of Russia. President Eisenhower, if I can invoke him again, Mr. Ice has left. President Eisenhower argued in the 1956 Suez Crisis the U.S. should push back against its allies, France, the UK, and also against Israel, coming into Egypt, because if we don't stand by international principles, if we don't push back on aggression, we will have to fight everywhere all the time. It is easier to defend Ukraine's sovereignty if we're consistent defending sovereignty.
Thank you.
Gentlelady's time has expired. I now recognize Representative Jackson for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Lawler, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today and for your time. Thanks to the incredible work by President Trump, Secretary Rubio, and the entire administration, all of the living hostages in Gaza